more nights, and he'll be reciting the Majlis lecture for this evening. We are still very much benefiting from his topic of Islamic economics, so we hope to come to a conclusion with him this evening, inshallah, as he gives us another lecture this evening. Salawat Muhammad wa Muhammad. And once again, we thank you, Shaykh Jafar, for making the trip and for being here with us for not just one event, but 3 events. So thank you very much for your flexibility. We're going to start our program first with the recitation of the Holy Quran, and we have a few folks who are going to be reciting. First, I'd like to please request Brother Ali Hussein Zaidi to come forward, please, for recitation of the Quran. Salawat Muhammad wa Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Jazakallah, thank you very much for that recitation. Next we'll have Brother Musa Fazalbash come forward for recitation of the Holy Quran. Salawat Muhammad wa Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إله قريش إلههم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Jazakallah, very good recitation, thank you. Next, I'd like to please request Brother Mujtaba Razvi to come forward for recitation of the Holy Quran. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. ولم يقل له كفوا أحد. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Brother Mujtaba, for your excellent recitation. Next, I'd like to please call upon Brother Muhammad Al-Zaidi to come forward for recitation of the Quran. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Jazakallah, thank you so much for your recitation, and thank you for all of our young volunteers for their recitation of the Holy Quran. One more salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Now I'd like to request Brother Jafar al-Mansur to come forward, and he will recite also from the Holy Quran, and then we'll also have him begin our Salam program right after his Quran recitation. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والسماء ذات البروج واليوم
الحميد الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء شهيد إن الذين فتنوا المؤمنين والمؤمنات ثم لم يتوبوا فلهم عذاب جهنم ولهم عذاب الحريق إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ذلك الفوز الكبير إن بطش ربك لشديد إنه هو يبدئ ويعيد وهو الغفور الودود ذو العرش المجيد فعال لما يريد هل أتاك حديث الجنود فرعون وثمود بل الذين كفروا في تكذيب والله من ورائهم محيط بل هو قرآن مجيد في لوح محفوظ صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
زينب 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 eloquent vibrant Zainab 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 brave defiant Zainab 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 silent tyrant Zainab 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 eloquent vibrant Zainab 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 brave defiant Zainab 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 silent tyrant Zainab 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 is the name of patience Zainab Zainab taught us for generations her father's will and her mother's fragrance Kaaba of sorrows and lamentations Zainab Zainab is the name of patience Zainab Zainab taught us for generations her father's will and her mother's fragrance Kaaba of sorrows and lamentations Zainab Zainab
Jazakallah. Thank you so much, Brother Jafar. Next, I'd like to please call upon Brother Ali Abbas Hussain to come forward for recitation of Salam. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
جتنے بھی مصائب ہونا گھبرائیو زینب، جتنے بھی مصائب ہونا گھبرائیو زینب، ہر ظلم و ستم شان سے سہ جائیو زینب، جتنے بھی مصائب ہونا گھبرائیو زینب، عاشور کی شب آئے علمدار تمہیں ہو، عاشور کی شب بدل جائیو
Brother Abbas.
زینب کمال سانع قدرت کا نام ہے، زینب کمال سانع قدرت کا نام ہے، زینب جمال روئے مشیت کا نام ہے، زینب جلال صاحب غیرت کا نام ہے، زینب محال کار صداقت کا نام ہے، زینب ہے نام عزم دبے بھوت راب کا، زینب ہے نام دب دبے بھوت راب کا، اور زینب شعور دین پناہی کا نام ہے، زینب شعاع نور الہی کا نام ہے، زینب یزیدیت کی تباہی کا نام ہے، زینب حسینیت کی بقاہی کا نام ہے، زینب ہے نام عظمت آل رسول کا، زینب ہے جزو دین کے اصل اصول کا، زینب ہے جزو دین کے اصل اصول کا، زینب دل حبیب الہی کا چین ہے، زینب نذیر فاتح بدر و حنین ہے، زینب جناب فاطمہ کی نور عین ہے، زینب شریک کار امام حسین ہے، زینب حسینیت کی مکمل کتاب ہے، زینب یزیدیت کا مدلل جواب ہے، زینب یزیدیت کا مدلل جواب ہے، اور زینب ہے گلستان سیادت کی پاسبان، زینب ہے مصطفیٰ کی شریعت کی پاسبان، زینب ہے کاروان ہدایت کی پاسبان، زینب ہے ہر نبی کے نبوت کی پاسبان، زینب کی والدہ ہے رسالت کے ساتھ ساتھ، ज़ैनब रहेगी जिंदा इमामत के साथ साथ, ज़ैनब रहेगी जिंदा इमामत के साथ साथ। मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद
Jazakallah, Brother Taha. Now I'd like to please request Shaykh Jafar Muhibullah to come forward, take the minbar, and we'll begin our lecture for this evening. Salawat Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa assin Habib Khula khatm al-anbiya salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. برای خوشنودی سید الشهدا صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد. برای خوشنودی ثانی زهرا صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد و آل محمد.
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. به نستعين. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First and foremost, I give my condolences to each of you on the occasion which we are commemorating the shahadat of Zainab s.a. Of course, we are often in the habit of saying the Wafat of Zainab s.a. And there are different narrations about in the Maqtal about how exactly Zainab s.a. she returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was it an actual shahada that she was attacked or hit in the head, or whether it was simply from a broken heart, or some of the narration said that she was sitting under a tree. But in any case, any believer, as the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated that whoever dies and they have the hubb and love of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad mata shahida. Whoever has that love for the Ahlul Bayt dies as a shaheed, and without doubt the love of Zainab sallallahu alayha for the Ahlul Bayt, for her grandfather Rasulullah, for her father Amir al-Mu'mineen, her mother Fatima Zahra, for her brothers Imam al-Hasan Hussein, was something that we cannot even imagine. So we are commemorating the shahadat of Zainab al-Kubra sallallahu alayha. Zainab al-Kubra sallallahu alayha, as we know, or at least we should know, that like her mother, that she was someone who was a commentator of the Quran. She taught the Quran when Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wasalam. But he moved the capital of the Muslim Ummah from Medina to Kufa. Then Zainab al-Kubra, she also went. And one of the things that she did, she was working among the women, teaching the Quran, teaching the tafsir of the Quran, teaching women to understand the Quran. And of course, like her father, like her mother, like her brothers, again, she had a deep understanding of the Quran. In fact, if you want to understand, and we don't often talk about this, that the knowledge and understanding of Zainab al-Kubra sallallahu alayha. On one hand, we know that she is aqila, as Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu stated, that she is alima ghayru mu'allim, that she had knowledge, she had wisdom without even being taught. But at the same time, we can understand, if you want to, and that section of knowledge, we can't even fathom that. What is it? But if you want to just get a bit of a measure of, well, what is it that Zainab sallallahu alayha, she understood, then read Nahj al-Balagha. Those khutbahs of Nahj al-Balagha, Zainab sallallahu alayha, she was in Kufa. She knew what her father was saying. In fact, also one element as well, the khutbah of Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha, and he said Zainab sallallahu alayha, she was a young girl. She is the one who actually narrates the khutbah of Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha, word for word. When we look at the sanad of, okay, well, where did this khutbah come from and who narrates it? It was Zainab sallallahu alayhi. So this gives us some idea that why Zainab sallallahu alayhi, she is aqila. With that understanding, I do want to return back to that topic that we had, and just give 2 points tonight, inshallah, because we know tomorrow is a school day and everybody's going back to work. But just want to complete this topic of Islamic economics, or not complete it, but complete it in this short segment, because it is, as I said, a topic not often talked about, and it needs to be talked about. There's discussions that needs to happen around this topic. And mashallah, alhamdulillah, this weekend we've had some various discussions with brothers, various things that I've heard as well that people are mentioning. Why? Because it is important for us to understand this topic. Not only for our personal lives, but our lives as a community, our lives as an ummah. Very important. And before I begin with these 2 points, I just want to ask one question. One thing that we should think about and really ask ourselves, and I'll just get a quick survey here among those who are present and those who are not present, they were watching, maybe they can answer this for themselves first. So everyone knows who Warren Buffett is, right? Correct? And, one of the top investors, I think about, he controls about $116 billion worth of investment. He manages this, and of course he himself, very wealthy. So one question, understanding who he is, and what he manages. So if he came and he asked you today that, look, I want you to invest $10, just simply $10, in this particular stock. Because he knows, he's like, look, this is going to take off. It hasn't taken off yet. But if you simply invest $10, this $10 in 5 years, it would turn into $10,000. So how many of you would actually invest? Knowing who he is, knowing what type of person he is, what knowledge he has of something. How many of you?
Yep.
Excellent.
It's a halal stuff.
Well, yeah, halal stuff, whatever. Yeah. Why would you do that? You trust him. Great. You trust him. And he's someone who has money. He's someone who has built this wealth. If we trust him, and we see from his background, his knowledge, his understanding, and if he says this and he knows that this is going to happen, then I'll invest. So if that's the case, the question is, when we come to Islamic economics, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to invest, give this sadaqah in order to strengthen yourselves. As Imam Ali says, what is the key to opening that treasure of the heavens and the earth? Alhamd. Alhamd sababan lil mazid min fadli. That by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by doing those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, He's going to open the treasures of the heavens and earth. So the question is, and what does Allah own? Everything. Warren Buffett's wealth is nothing compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owns every single thing. And so if He's asking us to invest, then what is the return on that investment? What is the return? And this is one of the things we have to think of. Don't think that, oh, well, mashallah, Mawlana King talking about Islamic economics. He told us all these fancy things, make Imam Hussein our partner, and mashallah, this is nice, but we don't actually do it. But we will trust Warren Buffett. Why not trust Allah? Why not trust this plan of economics that Allah has given to us? And again, what I've explained over the last few days, it is only a drop in the water. We cannot even finish this topic at this point. And basically, the only aspect that I focused on, again, is that you could say ethical and spiritual aspect of Islamic economics. That what things can we do to strengthen ourselves? Why? Because that is actually the core of Islamic economics. It's not the dollars and cents, and it's not all of this material things. Is that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tapping that unlimited resource, because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Unlimited. Unlimited. Resource of wealth of spirituality, wealth of even this dunya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created this. He owns it all. And if we learn how to tap into that, then yes, our personal finances will be strong. The finances of our community will be strong. The finances of our ummah will be strong. Don't become short-sighted, because if we get short-sighted, it's like, how many figures am I making? I'm making a 6-figure income, 4-figure income. But no, it is tapping into that source. So So the last 2 points I want to make with regards to Islamic economics. And I think that these 2 points, there are many others, but these 2 points I think are very important. Because they're also, in a sense, very pragmatic. And also connected to Zainab s.a. One with regards to the teachings that she understands and she learned from the Imma alayhim salatu, her father, her brothers, and again, her own wisdom. I'm sure she had that wisdom as well. Another one is, again, really looking at the life of Zainab s.a. and seeing that, how did her life progress? Again, she's keeping the memory of Karbala alive. But there's something at that moment of her shahadat, her death, her passing away, that quite often we don't think about, but we're going to point to this and how it connects to this topic as well. So the first thing is regarding israf. And the second point I want to make, inshallah, is regarding planning and tanzeen. So with regards to israf, and we've heard a lot of this, that don't waste. Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Benefit from the wealth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and don't waste that blessing or wealth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something which, if we don't follow this command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to our own personal finances, with regards to the sustenance and blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, this is one of the things that will destroy that blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it will take away from even our financial stability. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a blessing and we're wasting it. On some extent, to some extent, I'm going to be very practical, very pragmatic. That yes, a lot of times, we see that as well within our communities, and it's an unfortunate thing. Unfortunate thing. Especially in the blessed month of Ramadan. The blessed month of Ramadan. And what happens? Where's our biggest point of israf and waste? It's in the food. Oh, mashallah, we have some nice iftars, we have good iftars, but then, of course, when I was growing up, if we took a lot of food and put it on our plate, my parents was like, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. That's what happens in Ramadan. So you're hungry and then you're like, I'm going to pile it on. And then because your stomach has shrank over the course of the day, then you probably won't even eat half of that. Then you put it aside, and what happens? I'll put it in the refrigerator, and then you don't eat it for suhoor. You eat something else for suhoor. Next iftar you come and you have another plate, and then after a while you're like, that plate of food has been sitting there for a week. I can't eat that. It's gonna, so you dump that out. Or God forbid, even sometimes what happens that even at the center while you're getting, you're like, I couldn't eat it all. Please throw it away. That israf destroys your sustenance from Allah, your blessings from Allah. It destroys. So, in Islamic economics, what do? We need to optimize our usage of things. Israf is also a counter to this idea and concept of consumerism. Because, unfortunately, this is the world today. A lot of times, how many times we buy stuff we don't even need? How many? And here's one measure. I would say that, if we're settled into our homes, and that's good, but, just to remember all those times that when we may have not, if we are already settled in our homes, that moment when we weren't settled in our homes, and then we moved from one place to another, from apartment to a home, or from one home to another. How many things did we find that we forgot we even had? It's like, I still have this? SubhanAllah. And maybe like 5 years, 10 years, you didn't have it. And guess what? You didn't need it. Maybe once you use it and then it got lost, maybe when it got lost earlier, you were like, okay. And then you didn't bother to go buy another. It was just something I think I like this thing. Consumerism, you're just constantly getting, constantly buying. There's always a sale. But do we actually need that thing or not? Or if we needed it, wanted it, and we enjoyed it for a while, is it something that, I'm finished with it, it's still in good shape, or this and that, and I can donate it to someone else who may actually need this particular thing. It may actually do them some good. So israf, when we apply it to Islamic economics, yes, it prevents waste, it prevents, this mindset of consumerism. But also, in israf, or this idea of israf, as we find in the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, very beautiful. It's connected not only with wasting in this way, but even sometimes with regards to how we spend our money, even on things which are good. Because quite often, that's the normative understanding of israf that I just gave. Most of you, we waste food, or we get these things we don't really need. But when we look at israf in its comprehensive understanding, as taught by the, first and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, and the Ahlul Bayt, we see that this idea of israf is very broad. And it's important for Islamic economics. Verse 67 of Surah Al-Furqan, where in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he states, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتَرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. So He says that those individuals, that when they give nafaqah, in other words, when they spend their money, or even when they give charity, this is nafaqah encompasses all these things. So whenever they spend, whenever they give nafaqah, whenever they even do charity, these are individuals who do not waste that blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to them. So neither are they wasteful, and neither are they tight-fisted. Yaqtab. Means to be tight-fisted, that they are not giving anything. So one of the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu salam, asks Imam Hussein, says, what is the meaning of this? So Imam Hussein alayhi salatu salam, he reached down and he grabbed a fistful of sand. And then he took the sand and he says, look, this is your sustenance. That whatever you've earned and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with, he says, if this is your sustenance, when you are giving that sustenance in your nafaqah, when you are giving that sustenance for charity, he says, watch what happens. And he opens his hand all the way. And what happens, basically all the sand runs out of his hand. He says, that's israf. That's israf. He says, don't do that. On one hand, yes, you're going to put yourself in a hardship. You may put your family in a hardship. He says, don't do that. Then he grabbed another fistful of sand, and then he just held it. He says that this is iqtira. You're not giving anything. He says, don't do that. Because Allah is neither pleased with that, where your hands and you put yourself in hardships, you put your family in hardships, nor is He pleased with this. Then he grabs a third handful of sand and he opens it, and some of the sand comes out of his hand and some is left in the sand. He says, this is what this is. That the person is not wasteful, nor are they tight-fisted. This is one meaning of this. That even in that we are very aware. Again, what are our needs? And this is one way to kind of comprehend this and understand. What is our needs and what are our wants? Definitely make sure that you are covering what your needs are. It doesn't say that don't get anything that you want, that you will enjoy. No, but it shouldn't be to the extent that, oh, well, I'm getting all that getting what I need, getting everything that I want, and I have nothing to give to others, to help others, to fulfill my responsibility to society. Another, again, perspective of israf as well is in Nahj al-Balagh, Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. Where he says, إِنَّ إِعْتَاءِ الْمَالِ فِي غَيْرِ حَقِّ إِسْرَافٍ. So it's tabdhir wa israf. Tabdhir also has the meaning of israf. He says, to give money to those who are not actually deserving, they don't qualify. And this is when Imam Ali alayhi salatu, when some people came to him and says, here's the Baytul Mal. Why don't you just give it to everybody equally? So Imam Ali alayhi salatu, he reprimanded this person. He says, what? He says, give it to everyone equally when everyone's situation is not the same? It's not the same. This person is in more dire need. That person has a need, can't meet his needs, but this is his measure. Almost like, and I've seen this quite often, so sometimes, especially when you collect the zakat al-fitr at the end of Ramadan. And some people who are distributing it say, oh, you know what? We just divide it equally among everybody. This person's coming, that person's coming. One family has 5 kids, and they actually deserve it. Another family only has 2 kids or 1 kid. And so, well, we just give them all the same amount. I think it's like, no, that's wrong. Because if their need is this amount and you give more, this is wrong. If their need is not being met and you give it, that's the iqtidar of that. No, you have to give them. They need. And this is why that responsibility is very weighty, that individual who is distributing. You don't have time to go into this idea and concept. That's also part of Islamic economics. Distribution. What is the measure of distribution? Distribution of wealth. But this gives us some understanding. So with that said, and again, just so we are very clear about Islamic economics, that why this is, again, the best system. Part of that, when we think of it, and this happened over, and we see it playing out in front of us. We see it playing out in front of us. Actually, the world sees it playing out in front of us. And a lot of people are like, oh, why is this happening? Again, because the model of economics is wrong. That how often billion-dollar corporations, they come and they get bailed out. With millions of dollars. But the average person is getting nothing, or hardly nothing. Oh, they'll give you a $2,000 check this year. And with that $2,000 check, you're still struggling to make it. Meanwhile, the CEO of some company is like, oh, before COVID, I was making $16 million. This year, COVID started, I only made $15 million. I need a bailout. They get bailed out. They get bailed out. Your bottom line is not hurting. Come on, you can't even spend that much money in your lifetime. Why? Because the idea and the concept of economics is not based on social justice, like the Islamic system. One other example, I'm going to give you another example, because, again, this is intricately tied with this idea of, again, israf, wasteful. We have, and again, this is a good effort, or at least in theory, it's a good effort to talk about, oh, well, we have to conserve water, we have to do this. But if we're conserving on one hand and we're wasting on the other, then what have we really done? One example, I don't know if you guys have this water conservation, or certain times of the year, maybe summer, that, oh, well, it's not much water, so don't use much water. If you use more water, you get this extra penalty on your water bill. You guys have this? You don't know. Okay, well, we've had this. But you guys have people who talk about water conservation, correct? Or at least they're talking about it. So tell me this. So if on one hand they're advocating, no, you know what, we need to conserve water because water is going to become scarce. But one of the things that is wasted in many restaurants is bread. And what do you need to make bread? Water. So if you're saving water on one end, some people, they have this, I think definitely in California, they have these little timer pots that you put in your showers. Okay, you're only taking a 5-minute shower to make sure we're conserving water. But if you're conserving that water there, but you're using water to make bread, and at the end of the day, the restaurant didn't sell the bread, you throw it away, then where's the balance here? So are we trying to conserve and not do waste, israf, or not? This is why it's a critique, and it's a valid critique, and we shouldn't be silent on this critique. And I think, mashallah, even at least some people who are trying to do something, they kind of understood this in their own way. There's an organization, you can look this up online, called Keep Austin Fed. I'm going to use Austin as an example from Austin. So Keep Austin Fed is an organization that they started going around to restaurants. Why? Because they realized that in Austin, when you look at the restaurants in Austin, they said roughly over 2 or 3 tons of food is wasted by restaurants. Meaning that, again, either food is cooked or it's prepped. If that food is not used by a certain time, some of it at the end of the day, what happens? It goes into the dumpster. or the end of this week, it goes into the dumpster. This is why also some homeless people, they dumpster dive. I'm sure you can find these. What? And some of those individuals, they do this. There's a very interesting story on Oprah Winfrey. This is just an aside. We are two young medical students. They got married. And within 1 year, they paid off their loan. They were over Winfrey, the talk show. And so she was like, how did you guys pay off your loans from medical school in like a year and a half? She said, well, they said, well, what we used to do, we realized that most of these restaurants, they actually throw away good food. Absolutely nothing's wrong with it. So medical students, what did they do? They dumpster dive for an entire year. And so the money that they were making, they paid off their loans. And they were debt-free. Almost 1 year and a half after medical school. Because they were eating good food. They make sure that, okay, yeah, this is good. Not something that's been bitten off of or this and that. No, this is good. And that's how they ate. And they saved money and paid off their medical bills. So anyway, going back to this organization, Keep Austin Fed. Look it up. In Austin, a city that the population is about 1.1 million people. 1 out of 7 people don't know where their next bill is coming from. So that means a little over 150,000 people in this one city. Georgia may be bigger than that, but imagine 150,000. And this is just one city. Do we not say that malnutrition was one of the, remember, they don't know where they're going to get their milk from. So Keep Austin Fed made this plan that, we're going to go around to these restaurants and we're going to say, look, don't throw that food away. Give it to us and allow us to give it, or the grocery stores, you have stuff on the shelf, almost one day, you're going to throw it out. It's still good. It still can be used, and they have a whole system. At least let us get it. Somebody can eat it. Somebody can have some nutrition for the day. Because they don't know where they're going to get their food from. They said even with their organization, so they're not even making a dent in that about 2 tons of food that is wasted. 2 tons per day, not in a week. So we're not even making a dent. We can only do about, I think they said about 250, 300,000 pounds of food. Super high. Why? Because we live on this economic system of consumerism, israf, waste. Or within Islam, it says, no, don't do that. Don't waste. My last point here, and this is just something for you to practically see, that israf creates this system of inequality. It destroys, again, a healthy economy. It destroys this idea, the sense of social responsibility. And why do they throw away? When I was a teenager, I worked with this. I understood why. No. And I used to be like, why are you throwing this food away? It's like, well, we have to, we can't give it to people. Yeah, on one hand, they're afraid, they say, and they say, maybe if it's old, something happens to them. What do you mean it's old? It was cooked today. We always put our food at home. We cook something today and we put it in the refrigerator. So that doesn't go bad that quickly. But it's all the control prices, regulate prices. Because if you give it away, then everybody has something to eat. No one's going to go hungry. But at that point, how much can you control the prices? So we have to destroy it. But in the long run, what will happen? Allah will remove that blessing. He's going to remove that ni'mah. There's a documentary. Go look at this documentary. The other day, that's the first time I mentioned that. I will only mention that documentary came to mind. It's a documentary. It's on YouTube. You can find it. Hopefully, you won't take it off after I mention this to you guys. So you watch it for free. The documentary is called Inequality for All. And documentary is done by Robert Reich. He used to be the minister of labor under Clinton. And when he went into Washington, again, trying to make sure that there's at least some equality, that people can, prosper financially. But when he saw that, oh, this can't be done in Washington. The way the system is going, and especially also someone like that, he's against these bailouts. He says, wait a minute, these people are making millions and millions, and guess what? They don't spend their money in the economy. It's the people who are not getting money who actually spend their money within the economy. So the wealthy, they just hold on to their money. They don't put it back into the economy. So he's teaching at Berkeley, and before they loved him, but now they say, oh, this guy's a communist, he's a socialist. Why? Because now he's against it. He says, no, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. He said, that system does not work. So again, as Muslims, we have the best systems. Why shouldn't we be living by that system first and foremost and being the example for others? An economic system that, again, brings justice. It does not make other people poor, no. Yes, you can make money, you can make your wealth. But those who are less fortunate are also taken care of. Salawat. So very quickly, this last point that I want to make, and this is about time being. So you can say planning and being very strategic with regards to the resources that we have. Understanding that what is that blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and from that having individuals who are thinking in terms of the finances, not only we ourselves thinking in terms of our own personal finance, but also within our community, as who's thinking about the finances of our community, who's thinking about the finances of our ummah, and being very strategic about it. Again, not being wasteful, but understanding where exactly are we spending our money? How do we actually maximize it? Because our wealth and our money is something that is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we actually maximize that which we have at hand, tangible? This also led to a discussion, or at least there was a discussion. But I'll just give you one, again, very practical, but sad example that we find within our community. And that is, and this is a reality, that when we begin to start some cities, I'm not just saying here anything, but some cities, we start with one center. Everybody's good. But then that center breaks into another center, and everybody, and then what happens to our resources? Our resources get spread so thin that every center is like, oh, well, we gotta make sure that we keep our donors. Our donors can't go to this other center. Right? Because we're gonna lose out. Versus being very strategic about what exactly is this resource that we have. Because yes, if you have a large center, you probably need more than one center. But why not, instead of breaking off and, oh, well, we don't like this person don't like the way we do things, rather than breaking off and splitting up in this manner where our resources get spread so thin that every center suffers. Versus saying that, you know what, okay, we're here, this is the center, but you know what, the people who are coming from the north, it takes them like an hour and a half, maybe hour, 15 minutes just to get here. Okay, great. We can go center in the north. We need a center in the south. Guess what? Let's pool all of our resources, make sure we have the center. How big of a center we need in the north? How big of a center we need in the south? Pool our resources. Once this is done and taken care of, then pool our resources, build that center. But okay, you have another center right. Pull our resources together, build that other center. And then all of them are connected, united as a ummah. But not only united as a ummah, as a community, but also financially strong as a community. That the resources are being spent in the best of things. Allah He teaches us this valuable lesson in the Quran. A story that we've perhaps heard so many times, but again, we don't understand the hikmah behind it. It's not just simply a story. It's a huge lesson. That is in Surah Yusuf, in verses 47 to 49, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, again, that the Pharaoh, the Aziz of Egypt, he has this dream that, okay, what is this calendar? What is going on? You know this story, so I'm not going to repeat it. Go read this one. And then when it comes to Yusuf, Yusuf said, you know what has to be done? He says, for 7 years, save, take the harvest, only take what you need. Not what you want. You can probably eat 2 plates of wheat. But what you need is one. Just eat what you need. The rest of it you put in storage. Then you're going to have 7 years of hardship. And that 7 years of hardships, again, you take and you eat and you save a little. So first you start with saving a lot, just save a little bit. And then after that, what is going to happen? You're going to prosper. You're going to prosper. In other words, Yusuf, alayhi salam, he was an economist. He was an economist. And he's putting forth a strategy. Yes, it's based on what he knows, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, that ilham. But don't think of it in this terms that, simply because he has a wife. No, even now, we can project. We project. That's what economists, they project. In the future, or this time, this is ways things are going. Why are we not doing this within our own communities as well? With regards to our sinners, with regards to, again, the entire community and the ummah, to strengthen ourselves, to forecast and project, and to plan for the future. Save when we have to save more, and then when we have a moment like, hey, we can use a little bit more. Use that amount again to maximize those resources that we have. Maximize those resources. So, so, and of course, Yusuf in the story, when he comes out of prison, what he used to tell the Pharaoh is, he says, look, give me the treasure. He becomes a treasure. Why? Because, these other people are not going to measure correctly. They may, this is my friend, or this is my cousin. I'll slip you and I'll give you. And this is one of the things that I know when even Al-Qaeda is very strict about in national. Like when you see when he deals with those people who are in treasure. Even when he tells Malik Ashar, he says, make sure that when you appoint your treasurer, but first of all, this person is not, again, he's not a miser, he's not bakhil, he's not stingy. But he gives what he needs to give, but at the same time, he's not someone that's going to be loose and just waste everything as well. And these are practical lessons that we can learn from our community. Why? Because by doing so, in the story of Yusuf, that you have a point of hardship. And if you're very strategic about what you do, when you do, where you spend money, how you spend money, then that hardship that was once existing will give you some ease, relative ease. This is connected to the life of Zainab s.a. How so? Again, we don't think about it, but it's a very subtle wisdom, very subtle hikmah. Zainab s.a, who is in the household of Muhibullah, understands the Messiah of her grandfather, of her mother, of Amir al-Mu'mineen, of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, of Imam Zain al-Abidin. So where's that forecast? Because, let me ask you, where did Zainab s.a. Where was her nation? It was in Sham. Was that Sham the place that Imam Zain al-Abidin, that whenever he was asked, now what was the most difficult part of this journey from Mecca to Karbala? From Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, Imam Zain al-Abidin would say, Asham, Asham, Asham. But let me show you, where's the forecast? The forecast was when the husband of Zainab s.a. that he bought land in that place that was the most difficult place for the Ahlul Bayt, Asham, Asham, Asham. That when Zainab s.a, when she was exiled from Medina, for constantly remembering Hussein, raising the flag of Imam Hussein, that she will return back to Sham. She will return back to that place that was the most difficult place. But look what happened throughout history. That Zainab salam Allah alayha, that her grave is in Sham. It is in Damascus. It became a point of ziyarah for the Ahlul Bayt, for the lovers of Ahlul Bayt. It became a point where people gravitated there. It became a point that there were three, at least governments of individuals, three governments. Government of the Buyids, the government of the Hamdanids, the government of the Fatimids, that they all said that they will rule over Sham. So that place that was once the most difficult place, that at least some individuals there, that what happened to them? Their hearts were hearts of stone. Hearts of stone. And eventually some in that area, they began to love Muhibullah. Do you want to understand that how hard-hearted were these individuals? There's one place that was close to Damascus. They said that on the journey towards Damascus, there was one place that is called Qasr al-Ajuz, which was the house of the abode of the elderly woman. This woman, her name was Hijab. Her husband and father was killed in one of the wars that was fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. They were Khawarij. This elderly woman, that what happened when the caravan was making its way to Sham, Damascus, they stopped in this area and she came out of her house. She says, "What is this? Whose heads are these?" And the enemy of Ahlul Bayt, they said that this is the head of Hussein ibn Ali and his companions. So she says, "Hold those heads there. But hold them there so I can beat these heads." So she picked up rocks and she began to throw it at the head of Imam Hussein. It cracked the lips of Imam Hussein. The lips of Imam Hussein began to bleed. Zainab al-Kubra, when she saw this, she saw what happened to the head of Hussein on the spear. They said, Zainab al-Kubra, she fainted. She was saying, "Wow, Hussein, ah." This is how hard their hearts were. They said that Zainab al-Kubra, when she came to, she made dua against this woman, and she died on the spot. But this was only a part of the musibat of Zainab al-Kubra. Because Zainab al-Kubra, Salam Allah alayha, though she was in Damascus, though she went back to Karbala, though she went back to Medina, her heart was always in Karbala. This is why she never stopped speaking about what happened in Karbala. This is why she never forgot what happened in Karbala. As they say that when Zainab, she was exiled from Medina, going back to Karbala, to Sham. And this is why some say that Zainab al-Kubra, dil shikaste se, dil टूटने से shaheed ho gaye. From a broken heart that she was martyred. That her heart broke, but when did her heart break? He said that when Zainab Kubra, when she entered that area of Sham and Damascus, he said that there was a tree in the spot, and when she saw this tree, she began to remember that when the head of Imam Hussein was brought into Damascus, towards Damascus, that his head was being hung upon a tree, and she called Fidda, that where is this place? It's as if I remember this place. She said that yes, this is a place where the head of our beloved Hussein was. I said that Zainab Kubra, she began to cry profusely. Wa Husseina. What did Zainab Kubra, what did she remember from Karbala? There were so many events in Karbala. They say Karbala mein ek bhai du hatun kat ho gaya or shaheed ho gaya. They said in Karbala, that's one of her brothers, that both arms were cut, and from that he was martyred afterwards. In Karbala, or Dusra bhai, Hussein ko khoon mein dubo kar qat kiya gaya, or uska sar piche se kat gaya. That in Karbala, that her brother Hussein alayhi salam, that he was drenched in his own blood, that Hussein in the day of Ashura in Karbala, that his head was severed from behind. From this, and from being broken-hearted and remembering the events of Karbala, Zainab Kubra returned back to Allah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. فسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم بحق هذه المجلس الزينبي اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشفي مرضانا وارحم امواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من اعوانه وانسابه والمستشرين بين يديه وتحت لواء حق محمد واله الطاهرين.
भूला है न भूलेगा ता हश्र ज़माना, 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 भूला है न भूलेगा ता हश्र ज़माना। दरबारे यज़ीदी में, दरबारे यज़ीदी में तेरा खुतबा सुनाना, भूला है न भूलेगा ता हश्र ज़माना, भूला है न भूलेगा ता हश्र ज़माना। तेरे पर्दे के कुर्बान तेरे भाई के सदके, तेरे पर्दे के कुर्बान तेरे भाई के सदके, आता है जिसे दीन पे, आता है जिसे दीन पे घर बार लुटाना, भूला है न भूलेगा ता हश्र ज़माना, भूला है न भूलेगा ता हश्र ज़माना। शाबिर ने ये दर्स ज़माने زمانہ حرمل یہ تیرا جرم کبھی چھپ نہیں سکتا ہے حرمل یہ تیرا جرم کبھی چھپ نہیں سکتا پانی کے عوض تیر سے پانی کے عوض تیر سے اصغر کو سلانا بھولا ہے نہ بھولے گا حشر زمانہ بھولا ہے نہ بھولے گا حشر زمانہ شبیر کی عظمت ہے یہ شبیر کی جرت ہے شبیر کی عظمت ہے یہ شبیر کی جرت مقتل میں وہ اکبر کے مقتل میں وہ اکبر کے لاش کو اٹھانا بھولا ہے نہ بھولے گا حشر زمانہ بھولا ہے نہ بھولے گا حشر زمانہ دربار یزیدی میں دربار یزیدی میں تیرا خطبہ سنانا بھولا ہے نہ بھولے گا حشر زمانہ بھولا ہے نہ بھولے گا حشر زمانہ السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا مولاي أمير المؤمنين يا سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين السلام عليكم يا أمهات المؤمنين السلام عليك يا مولاي حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين السلام عليك يا مولا بالفضل العباس الأمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا زينب يا أم المصائب يا ابن عمي بنت أمير المؤمنين السلام عليكم جميع شهداء كربلاء واسيان كوفة وشام جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليكم يا أئمة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وحسن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الحجة القائم المنتظر المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة ومعادن الرسالة ومقتدى أولئك جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته